Hi, and welcome back to another Makeup Monday video. I'm Jennifer Mata-McMahon. This video is going to be about my favorite concealers. Some that I've used for many years, some that I've discovered recently as being wonderful, and some that I have, but I don't necessarily love all that much. And I'm also going to share with you some color correcting concealer type items that I have as well. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to start with my high-end ones, the high-end ones that I have. And interestingly enough, the high-end ones are not my favorite ones. But I'm going to share with you what I have. The first one that I have is this Clinique CX, I think it is, yeah, CX Concealer. And I have the color Moderately Light 02. And it's a little like compact, and it comes with a mirror and a brush, a double-sided brush. And one side of the brush is to get to the cream product, and the other side of the brush is to get to the powder to set it. So I think it's very convenient to have both products in the same compact, in the same container. For travel, for example, it's great. But I find that this concealer is a little bit on the drying side. So if I apply it with my finger, it works better because with the heat of your skin and the oils of your skin, it gets a little bit more moisturized, and it flows, it spreads a little bit better under the eyes than if I use it with the brush. And I can still use the other side of the brush for the powder to set it. This is a concealer that I can use for both my under eyes and covering blemishes, but again, I don't use it that often because I find it a little bit on the heavy side. But that's the Clinique one that I have, and I've had this for quite some time. That can also be a factor. After some time, the products can go a little dry, and they're not as emollient and as moisturized. They don't go on as nicely as they do when they're sort of like freshly opened. Another high-end concealer that I have is the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. And I use the shade Light Medium. And this one is really easy to apply because it has this like big doe foot applicator. This one is really thick. This is high coverage. They call it a contour concealer. So it contours, it conceals, it corrects, it does everything. And it's really high coverage. So whatever you need to conceal, this will totally cover it, almost like a foundation would, like a high covering foundation. But I find it that for my under eyes, it's a little too much. I have dark circles that I need to cover, but this seems to be a little bit more than what I actually need. And it's a little bit drying, so I can see, you know, like the fine lines can be accentuated if I apply too much of this. So when I use this sparingly, but I've had this for a long time, and I still can, it's barely unused because of that, because it's not my favorite. I don't totally love it. The other high-end one that I have is the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, and I have little sample sizes that have come with purchases that I've made, and I have the regular one, the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, just full coverage, anti-aging, waterproof concealer. So it does all of those things, right? It's anti-aging because it has some products here that are good for your skin. It conceals, and it's high coverage, and it claims to also be waterproof. And I have the Illumination one as well. I've tried the Illumination one more because I find that it's a little bit more moisturizing, and it brings more light to that area. But these are also thick. So what I do is I spread a little bit on my fingers, and I kind of like work on them and then sort of pat them in my under eye. And I feel like that's the best way. If I go directly with it and like spread it with a brush or a sponge is better because the sponge will dilute it. But a brush will give you that full coverage. And again, like the Tarte Shape Tape and like the Clinique one that I showed you before, because these are so full coverage, they tend to be a little bit thick, and they tend to be a little bit drying. So the fine lines are accentuated because of that. I'm going to show you now my drugstore ones, which are my favorite ones. I have the Makeup Revolution, what is this called? Conceal and Define, Full Coverage Conceal and Contour. So it's a concealer, it can be used as a contouring, liquid contouring device. It also has that big doe foot. This one, people talk about it as if it's a dupe for the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I find that this one's a little bit better, a little less drying in terms of, it's also full coverage. I feel like the Tarte one is a little more full coverage than this one, and it's a little more drying than this one. So I would prefer this one to the Shape Tape one, but the Tarte one, but this is not my favorite one. But I have this one in the shade C5, and it works for my skin tone. What I want for my under eye concealer is something that is a shade a little bit lighter than my skin, so that it's not too light that it doesn't cover anything, that the darkness still comes through it, but it is not too dark that it covers, but then that area looks darkened, right? Because I want to bring light to my under eye. So it's sort of like a tricky balance to find the perfect shade that will both cover but also illuminate. So yeah, it's kind of tricky, but this one C5 seems to cover and work. This one is my current favorite. I have used this Catrice one a lot. As you can see, I'm like almost done with it. There's just like this little bit left. It's called the Liquid Camouflage High Coverage Concealer. This one covers, but it's lighter than the Tarte one. It's lighter than the Makeup Revolution one. It's a thinner formula, and it covers and it illuminates, and it is not as thick as the other two, so it doesn't sort of cake up, and I don't feel like my fine lines are accentuated with this. I use 020 Light Beige, and this one also has a doe foot applicator, but it's much smaller than the other ones, and I use this every day. I sometimes use this as a primer for my lids as well. I'll just put it all over my eye to cover underneath and just to prime the lids with it, and just set it a little bit and then go in with my eyeshadows. I love this one. Highly recommended, and it's, I don't know, $5 or something like that, because it's a drugstore concealer. The other drugstore concealer that I like is this Maybelline. This Maybelline is from the, let me see, I have it here, Fit Me line, and it's the concealer. I use the shade 10 or light. It also has a small doe foot applicator. This is the smallest doe foot of all the ones that I have. This is a repurchase, so I used one of these entirely and went and bought this one, but after I found the Catrice one, I haven't gone back to this. This is a lighter formula. It does conceal, it brightens, but I don't feel like it conceals all that well, because this is not a full coverage concealer. It's sort of more of a lightweight kind of concealer, so I don't think that this one conceals all that well. But it doesn't accentuate fine lines, it doesn't cake up when you set it. It's really nice for those purposes. And I've had this in different shades too, like a little bit darker shade, lighter shades, and sort of play around with it to see if I want to illuminate, if I want to conceal or hide dark spots, and so on. Another one from Maybelline that I love is the Age Rewind one, the one that you kind of rewind up, and it has the little sponge. I'll put a picture of it. I've had that one. I've had it, I think I've had 3 of those over the years. I've had it as the illuminator one, the light one, the sort of yellowish one to correct, and they've all worked great. I really like that one. But that one, similarly to this one, has a really light formula, so it does conceal and doesn't accentuate fine lines. It doesn't cake up when you set it, but the concealing effect of it could be better because it's really thin formula. That's the Maybelline ones. The other one that I have that I use every day is the Neutrogena one, and this one's the Skin Clearing Blemish Concealer. So it's concealer for blemishes. I only use this for blemishes. I don't put this under my eye. But there's a lot of blemishes I need to conceal these days because of this acne that I have going on in my face. I use this one in light 10. I've had the medium of this one as well. Elf used to make one just like this, exactly like this, and it came in the same exact container, like this clear pen that you just twist up and it comes out of the sponge, and then you just put it wherever you need it to cover blemishes, but they don't make it anymore. So after Elf retired that product, I started purchasing the Neutrogena one, and I really like it. It has salicylic acid, so it's good for blemishes in that sense that it doesn't only cover them so that they're not as noticeable, but it also treats them with the salicylic acid that the product has. I love this. I've repurchased the Elf one many times until they took it out of rotation, and then this one is my fourth one, and I already have another one because I go through them, as you can see, fairly quickly. So that one I love. The other ones I have here for you to show you that I have in my my repertoire of concealers are these Elf ones, and these are the only ones I have left. I've had the HD Elf ones that come in the doe foot, but they only make 3 shades of those, and I've had the light and the medium, and neither one is that great. The light one I feel is too light, and the medium one is too gray, and I don't feel like they look good on me. I had them both and I gave them away because neither of them was the right shade. And then the next one is dark, and that is not going to work either. So, but they're really good. The formulation of that one is really good. The Elf HD concealer that comes in with that doe foot. I'll put a picture of it and so that you can see it. But this one is also from Elf. It's a concealer, but it's a twist up, and it's a cream concealer. So you put it on your skin and you kind of distribute it with your finger, and it conceals. I have one in beige and one in ivory. The one in beige has this more salmony color to it, and it's good for color correcting. So if I put this under my eyes first and then go with a liquid one to highlight or to illuminate, that will work. This one, or is this one the salmony color? I don't know. There's one that is more salmony and the other one that's more like my skin tone. Yeah, I think the ivory one is the one that's a little more peachy, that works for correcting, and the other one works for just covering. I bought these because I thought they would be great for traveling because they're not liquids, they're solid, so I don't have to take them out and out of my carry-on. But I don't use them that much because, again, I'm just in love with that Catrice liquid one and use that one every day. So that's it for the concealers. I have 2 color correcting products that I use sporadically, almost never, because I don't know if I'm not using them correctly or if I just don't know how to use them all that well. I have the Elf color correcting pen, and I have the salmon shape, and it's you click on it on the bottom and product comes out, and it has this sort of brush tip, and you just brush it in your under eyes. I bought this salmony color to correct the purpleness of the under eyes. So when I use it, I go in with this, and then I use a concealer on top of it to illuminate and to sort of get rid of the salmony color. But that color helps hide the purple that is coming through in my under eyes. And the other one that is a color correcting one that I use also very sporadically is this one from Hard Candy, and it's color correct in the color green. And this one has a doe foot applicator, a really tiny one, and you just apply it. Is it a doe foot? No. It's a brush. It's a tiny brush. And you put it on wherever you have redness, and the green sort of takes the redness away. But you have to put a tiny, tiny bit, because if not, you look green, right? Which if you do before your primer, or maybe after your primer, but before your foundation, the foundation will cover that and it won't look green afterwards. And the green will just help hide the redness that's under it. And then the foundation can go on top of the green and the color corrector and just kind of hide the green. But as you can see, the green is potent, so you can't just put it on your face and go on your merry way without covering with something, because you'll look like the Wicked Witch of the West, right? So it works. It does color correct redness, but I tend to forget to use it. And I think I'm going to start using it again, because I want to hide the redness that's coming out of this acne that I'm having now. And I think I'll try it out. But yeah, those are all the concealers I have and the color correcting products that I have and that I use. And again, sort of to recap, the high-end ones I like, but they tend to be a little bit thick for me and a little bit drying, and I need a little more moisture. One of the things that I do before I use these, and I think it's a good tip, is to moisturize that area. So if I'm moist, and there's an e.l.f. product that's a primer that you just sort of like pump out, and you put a little daub under your eye, or even all around. Today I put it all over my eye, upper and lower lids, and it moisturizes. So it's a primer that moisturizes your skin and preps it for application of concealer. So if you have a concealer like the higher end ones that I just showed you, that are a little more on the dry side and they're a little more high coverage, so they're a little thicker, that would be great for that kind of concealer, to moisturize first and get the skin prepped to put something that's a little bit drying on top of it. So that's a tip if you want to use these very high coverage concealers. If you need them for your under eyes, go with a moisturizing primer first, and then apply your concealer and set it and all that jazz that you need to do. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.